What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today I'm kind of in a good mood and kind of a little bit sad, because there is a genuine, legitimate chance that this is the last video I ever make about the Transformers trading card game. Now, maybe I'm able to pick up some booster boxes for a very low price, and we do a couple of bonus openings, and if I do pick up some booster boxes, I certainly will do some bonus openings. And maybe we end up doing a retrospective somewhere down the line. Maybe a new product or some news gets dropped, though I highly doubt that, unfortunately. No, ladies and gentlemen, I think this is probably going to end up being, apart from maybe some random openings, come on, cheap booster boxes, the very last video we ever do about the Transformers trading card game. So we're going to make it a good one, and what we're going to do is we're going to count down the 10 best characters that we ever got in the Transformers TCG. And given that we've gotten all the characters we're ever going to be getting, this seems like a pretty good time to go ahead and count down the top 10. As always, it is just, well, it's kind of my opinion. It's come from three things. It's my opinion, and it is looking at all of the tournament results over on fortressmaximus.io, brilliant website for looking up deck lists and tournaments, and it's partly a poll that I ran over on the Facebook group. Thank you so much to anyone that helped out with that. So starting off then with one honourable mention for General Optimus Prime, and this is the Wave 3 Optimus Prime. Now, actually took second place at the Energon Invitational, which is, of course, the closest we ever got to a real World Championships, and this was a Wave 3 Optimus Prime. And when I first looked at this card, I basically told you it does everything, and it really does. I mean, stats wise, we got 11 stars, which is expensive but not prohibitively so. You can still make yourself a decent free wide with that. We've then got stats of 14 health high, 6 attack high, 2 defense, lowering to 4 attack but going up to 3 defense in alt mode, i.e. very good stats. And then it just does a little bit of everything. In bot mode, it's got Bold 1, flip an extra battle card when attacking, Tough 1, flip an extra battle card while defending, and Focus 1, before flipping battle cards when you battle, that is attacking or defending, you look at the top card and you may scrap it, i.e. scrap a blue if you're attacking or an orange if you're defending. Essentially, you just get to... You get extra bold and tough while also increasing your odds of hitting good orange and blue cards. That's kind of awesome. Then you flip over into alt mode and each of your other characters, not Optimus Prime itself, but all the others, get bold 1 and tough 1. And frankly, at this stage, you can either be a bit of a monster yourself, or you can build up the rest of your characters and just make them so much better as well. Frankly, ladies and gentlemen, this was an awesome character, and it ended up being the 3rd best Optimus Prime, and maybe that is a good reason to leave it as just an honourable mention. Did we really need 3 Optimus Prime on the list? But make no mistake about it, around about Wave 3, Wave 4, this really was one of the very best cards around. Though it is worth noting that it has dropped off significantly as Wave 5 has gotten bigger and better. Coming in at number 10 then, we've got PERCEPTOR. Now, PERCEPTOR is a very, very new card. It only came out in Wave 5, and it's super interesting because this is actually the card that Daniel Arnold made to celebrate essentially as his prize for winning the Energon Invitational. And it is a very, very nice card. We've got an 8 cost card. Stats wise, 12 health is good. Attack of 3 is not great. Defense of 1 or 2 is not great, not for an 8 cost. We would generally expect 4, 12, 2 on an 8 cost. But you've got really good stats. In bot mode, you get +1 attack for each card under him. What does that mean? Well, in alt mode, when you flip to it, you reveal the top 4 cards of your deck. Your opponent separates those cards into 2 piles, and you put one into your hand and the other under it face down. That's kind of awesome. You've got mind games, you've got an extra layer of strategy, you've got your opponent choosing between essentially giving you extra cards or boosting the attack, except it's not completely up to them. They've got to try and do that by making the 2 piles. and I love the design of this card. It's awesome. Worth pointing out that it did go ahead and take first place at one of the online tournaments, which has been happening fairly recently, and has had a little bit of representation in a bunch of others, a couple second places as well. But being Wave 5 and not dominating in Wave 5 means that I've had to drop it down a little bit. Make no mistake, this is still one of the 10 best cards we ever got. It's still awesome. In at number 9, we've got Insecticon Skrapnel. That is the Insecticon leader from Wave 1. And this is a card that didn't quite make the top 10 when I did the poll over on Facebook, but I've popped it up. And I think Skrapnel has one of the most broken abilities that we ever saw in the game. Now, stats-wise, Skrapnel isn't too hot, but then again, Skrapnel's also only a 7-star character. 5 or 4 attack is good for a 7-star. Defensive 0 isn't, but defensive 3 really is. Health of 7 is trash. But in bot mode, you cannot take more than 3 attack damage from a single attack. So you might have terrible health and 0 defense, but you're guaranteeing a 3-hit KO unless your opponent starts coming around with cheeky damage, which is kind of ridiculous. Over in alt mode, you may KO one of your other Insecticons to tap an enemy that has 13 stars or fewer, either so you can then attack them, remember the whole you can generally only attack tapped characters, or just because when they're tapped they can't attack next turn and you buy yourself a little bit of time. That wasn't my favourite thing about Skrapnel, but the fact of the matter is, the bot mode skill is ridiculous. It was part of the Insecticon deck, which really was absolutely crushing through Wave 1 and Wave 2. And honestly, even when you got to the Energon Invitational as Wave 4 is coming out, you still see a top 4 finish for Insecticons. And Skrapnel ended up getting teched into a bunch of other decks just in and of itself, and as far as I'm concerned, that puts it on the list. In at number 8, Private Lionizer. Now this is another one of those that I personally am extremely happy about, because I love Private Lionizer. Now this is actually one of the Battle Masters here, and if I'm remembering my list correctly, this is actually the only Battle Master that has gone and made it into the top 10 list. But it's also the best Battle Master we ever saw. Now, when it's a bot, you've got 7 stars, 0 attack, 8 health, 2 defense, not good stats. But you do get bold 4, so essentially you might have 0 attack, but you're flipping 6 battle cards minimum, 2 it usually would plus the 4 for bold 4. So if you've got a heavy orange deck, you're probably going to be hitting 5 or 6 icons here, which is crazy good. And again, that is assuming we don't have that much extra bold. And then when it turns into an upgrade, it gives you bold 4 and plan 1. So you've still got that ridiculous bold 4. Flip 4 more battle cards while attacking. And you also get plan 1. So when you attack, you get to put a card from your hand on top of your deck. So if you've got one of them, they're lovely cards that's got a double orange icon, something like Improvised Shield, you can put that on the top of your deck to guarantee you hit a double orange while also flipping 4 extra battle cards. And this was a card that was unashamedly aggro, but we saw it played with a bunch of things, like Grimlock or basically any other aggro character. And even as Wave 5 was coming out, and we didn't have many tournaments in Wave 5, but we did have a few online tournaments, and in one of those we actually saw Lionizer doing very well with characters like Fangry. Frankly, this is one of those cards that was really good as soon as it came out, and has held on all the way along, and for that reason, gotta kind of pop it on the list. In at number 7, we've got Major Shockwave. Now, Major Shockwave, very, very cool character. It's another one of these which is a very, very expensive character. No arguments there. It's coming in as a 14 cost, which for a regular character, i.e. not an oversized one, etc., is kind of ridiculously high. But then again, you've got health of 17, you've got attack of 7 or 6, and you've got defense of 2 or 3. So it might be expensive, but I suppose we can at least take solace in the fact that it's a really good character stats-wise. But it's not just the stats. Regardless of what mode you're in, you can always look at the top card of your deck at any time, which gives you information and lets you plan out your turns a little bit better. In bot mode, while the top card of your deck is a Decepticon card or a secret action, you may play it as though it were in your hand, so you're kind of giving yourself an extra card in hand here, but one that your opponent isn't able to actually go after, which is quite nice. And then when you're in alt mode, or at least when you flip to alt mode, you draw a card. Bearing in mind, with the skill, you will know what you're drawing. You'll know if it's worth flipping over or not. And then your opponent chooses a card from their hand and scraps it. So a little bit of disruption as well. And yeah, sure, your opponent chooses which card to scrap, but it's still going to be kind of annoying. So another one of those cards that did a lot of very good things and made its way into a bunch of decks. Coming in at number 6, we've got Nemesis Prime. Now, as I was starting playing the game, which was as the game was launched, Nemesis Prime was one of these that was getting an awful lot of pop. And one of the reasons, very simply, was that it was a phenomenal card that was also a secret rare, so it was very hard to get hold of. Although worth pointing out, it was later printed in the Energon edition, which did make it easier to actually go and get hold of. You could literally just go and buy the Energon edition and you would get one of them, which was rather lovely. Now, Nemesis Prime was a 12-star character, but a 16 health was ridiculous, an attack of 6 or 7 was ridiculous. But you had a lovely skill in bot mode, whereby when you reshuffled your scrap pile into your deck, remember the rule, when you run out of cards in your deck, you shuffle up your scrap pile and that becomes your deck. So when that happens, you put the bottom card of your deck face down under him, and he gets +3 attack for each card under him. So time you've gone through your deck once, you got attack of 10, twice 13, 3 times 16, and so on, and you can get up to a ridiculous amount of attack here, and that was why people played Nemesis. Now, there was a really nice alt mode skill as well, which let you flip to alt mode and do 2 damage to one of your opponent's characters, though they got a choice. And this was initially a great aggro deck. And then it turned into a bit of a blue deck. So rather than just trying to run through your deck as fast as you can, play it with a bunch of blue icons, go defensive with your health of 16, you've still got a natural attack of 7 and some cheeky damage, and the point is it ended up being quite versatile. Nemesis Prime was awesome. In at number 5, a character that I was going to put on this list regardless of what anybody said, my favourite character we ever had, Grimlock. I love Grimlock. My number 1 character on a personal level. No character was ever as cool as this. And I managed to pull 2 of them. Yay! Although what's kind of cool is it actually did take 5th place on the poll on the Facebook group, so I could put it there without feeling too bad about it. Now, what we've got here is a 10 cost character, and we got the standard health of 12, standard defense of 2, standard attack in alt mode of 4, but attack in bot mode of 6. So what we basically had here was a standard character with high attack that was quite expensive. But when you flicked into alt mode, one of your Dinobots got bold free until end of turn. So you flip 3 more cards when attacking. And yes, if you could use a card like Rapid Conversion, you could essentially flip and then flip again and you would get the bold free, which was kind of awesome. And in bot mode, when you did enough damage to KO an enemy and a bit more, that excess damage went to one of your opponent's characters, though they got a choice as to which one took it. Fun little side note, this skill was printed as an action card in Wave 2, Steamroll, which literally just did what Grimlock does. No, it didn't stack, that would be a little bit dumb. And it was a Dinobot, so what you would basically do is just use its alt mode skill, and then all of those ridiculous cards like Dino Chomp to give yourself bold 5, and you would use Jaws of Steel to give yourself bold 2, but it wasn't a weapon, so you'd also use Flamethrower. You'd go ridiculously bold, and then any excess damage would pile onto a second character. It could legitimately get double KOs. It was a little bit dumb. Also, you didn't have to use Flamethrower if you wanted to use Power Sword because you're a melee character. Yay! Coming in at number 4, we've got Galaxy Prime, the second Optimus Prime on this list. Now, this was actually the card that Daniel Arnold built a deck around to go and win the Energon Invitational. It was a ridiculous card. And as a fun little historical side note, it was initially printed as, you know, when it was revealed, when it was shown off, it was originally shown with the wrong stats. And then it came actually with 21 health, not 19, which was very, very cool. And incidentally, 21 health is ridiculously high, ladies and gentlemen. Ridiculously high. Daniel actually did play the card with Energy Pack, which gave extra health, and that was a little bit ridiculous, and that was actually a card I got to reveal, which was very, very lovely. Except it got more ridiculous than that, because Optimus Prime had 3 utility slots, so you could have up to 3 Energy Pack on there and just have ridiculous health here. Plus, you had attack of 7 or 8, which was huge. You were a 15-star character, mind, so you really had to pay for it. But then in bot mode, when you flipped at least 1 blue, 1 orange, you may play one of your flipped upgrades onto this after the battle. So you could attach an extra upgrade as you battle, which was ridiculous. And when you flipped into alt mode, you could reveal the top card of your deck, and if it was an action, you could play it. So what we're talking about here is a 15-star character, sure, super expensive, but gigantic health, gigantic attack, 3 utility slots, Matrix of Leadership, another utility, which was pretty gosh darned awesome, and people played along with this. And you got to play extra upgrades and actions in addition to what you'd usually be allowed to play, and hopefully at this stage you can start going, oh yeah, no, that was actually a ridiculous card. And let's be clear, it was an absolutely ridiculous card. In at number 3, we've got Sky Shadow. Now, I told you back at the beginning of this list that I was not going to be that quick to put Wave 5 characters on here because we didn't have that many tournaments. So, we kind of need to have a really, really good character to warrant being this high on the list when it never got a chance to prove itself. Well, Sky Shadow's it. And I'll be honest with you, if you look at all of the results from the online tournaments which have been happening since Wave 5 came out, Sky Shadow is all over them. We've seen it doing well with Perceptor. We've seen it doing well with Horrible. It's just, frankly, a very, very good card and a very good character. And it's absolutely earned a place on the list as one of the best characters we ever got, despite the fairly limited amount of time it had to prove itself. Now, it was a weird kind of character. You had the plane and the tank, and neither of them actually had a bot mode, so you couldn't flip them. Now, they were both 7-star characters with decent stats, 4 attack, 10 health, 2 defense. But you also had the card Sky Shadow Sync. It was a stratagem. Now, it cost a star, but basically when your Sky Shadow's tank or plane was KO'd, you would take an Ominous from outside the game, you would combine the plane and the tank into Sky Shadow, and then you would play Ominous onto it. So you could very much break the rules of the game here by bringing in an extra character. Ominous should have come in as a 3-star character, but you didn't pay anything, which was cool. Also gave you PS4, so it guaranteed 4 damage as long as your attack was at least 4. Bearing in mind the combined attack was 8, so yes. And to be clear, attack of 8 is brilliant. And you had both Bold 2, flip 2 more cards when attacking, and Tough 2, flip 2 more cards while defending. And when you combined, you did 3 damage to an enemy Autobot. Okay, fine, against a Decepticon team, that was a little bit sad you didn't get the damage, but you ended up with an 8 attack character with Bold 2 and Tough 2. That was a little bit silly, and obviously the individual tanks had Bold 2 and Tough 2 respectively. The tanks were kind of cool, but as soon as one of them went down, you could guarantee the combination. Remember that the stratagem starts in play, or kind of off to the side, I suppose, and you had just a ridiculous character. It's not a huge surprise that it's ended up dominating. And of course, because Sky Shadow was only a 15-star character, 7 for the plane and the tank each and 1 for the stratagem, that still gave you 10 stars to play with whatever else you wanted. But I do think 1 and 2 are 1 and 2 by a long shot, and I do think the order is fairly well set, and certainly the poll that I put up will back me up on this. So in at number 2, Wave 1, Flame War. Flame War, for a 5-star character, it's hard to imagine any 5-star character being much better. In terms of stats, 3 attack, 10 health, 1 defense is slightly low, but given that we expect 4, 12, 2 on an 8-star character, 3, 10, 1 on a 5-star character is ridiculous, and if you look at 5-star characters from later waves, they did not have stats this good. And then in bot mode, it gave each of your characters tough 1, and when you flip to alt mode, it gave each of your characters bold 1. And it does say each of your characters, not your other characters, so that did include Flame War as well. And what you've essentially got here is a character that's got far better stats than the amount of stars should give her, and it can give extra attack, or extra cards flipped while attack, or extra cards flipped while defending to any of your characters. I mean, certainly in a blue deck, Flame War was pretty much a must-play from Wave 1 till the game finished. Because you've got a 5-star character, you leave it in bot mode, or leave her in bot mode, all of your characters get tough 1, and you've got really good stats for a 5-star. Just silly, ladies and gentlemen. Just silly. And it really did see play in a huge amount of decks. And then, of course, you get to the question, what do we cover more? What's the better card? Is the better card the one that appears in lots and lots of different decks, but is never the main part of the deck? Or is the better card the one that is the center point of the deck, albeit a smaller number of decks? Well, my opinion, and the one backed up on the poll on Facebook, because it got 50% more votes, Optimus Prime Battlefield Legend, the best card we ever got in the Transformers trading card game. And this came out the gate as the best card. Now, between Wave 1 and the Wave 1 starter set, we actually got 3 Optimus Primes. So, safe to say we had some choice from the beginning. But Optimus Prime Battlefield Legend, from the moment Wave 1 dropped, was the best character. You saw a 13-star character, which is super expensive, but health of 14, attack of 6 or 8, and defense of 2 or 3 meant that the stars were worth it. I mean, in bot mode, attack of 8, health of 14, just silly. You're ranged in bot mode, but melee in alt mode, so you had a whole bunch of different options in terms of support cards. When you flipped into alt mode, you got to return any action card from your scrap pile to your hand, which meant firstly you could reuse cards, but it also meant, remember how Transformers works, when you attack you flip cards, and when you defend you flip cards. And as a general rule, any card in your deck is more likely to be flipped and scrapped while attacking or defending than it is to be drawn at the beginning of your turn or with any other draw card. So a lot of the time you end up scrapping action cards you want to play. Well, Optimus Prime doesn't care, you just get it back. And actually, scrapping the good action cards is good, because it means you can then just flip to alt mode and get it right back. But you can also reuse cards. And then in bot mode, you flip all the cards you would usually flip while attacking, and then you got to play one of the actions. You literally got to play an extra action card every time you attacked, unless, of course, you literally only flipped upgrades. And what we were left with was a versatile character with so many different traits that could get any action card back, so you were guaranteed to actually find the action you wanted, that had a ridiculous attack of 8, that had very high health, and that got to play extra action cards outside of the one you would usually play, Optimus Prime was ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And as we're looking at Wave 5 results, no, it's not popping up as much as some of the other characters on this list. But if you're looking at general best card over the lifespan of the game, I don't think there is a better pick. If you want to pick FLAMEWAR for number 1, because you would rather have a character that saw a little bit of play in a lot of decks, yes, absolutely down with that. But as it stands, ladies and gentlemen, I feel good putting this at number 1. So there we go. That's my list. I want to see your list. And I do want to see your list. I want a full top 10 in the comment section from everybody. Go! And also, anyone that's watched my Transformers coverage, thank you very much. You rock. Now, let's be clear. If I do get any other boxes to open, I will. You have my word on that, and I'll record them and I'll pop them on here. If we have big, proper sanctioned tournaments, I'm going to report them here. If the game gets revived, if new products get launched, if we get any random promos, if any Transformers news transpires, I still love this game. You can be absolutely sure that anything that happens that you need to know about will be covered on this channel. You have my promise on that. But for now, let me know your top 10 in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wossy. That's where we talk Transformers and a bunch of other games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all kinds of fun stuff. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wossy Plays.